The Rock and Roll Coffee Show is brought to you by Writers and Rockers Coffee Company, keeping the music and memories alive with some damn good coffee. Be sure to pick up your Rock and Roll Coffee Show coffee only at writersandrockerscoffee.com. And also brought to you by Retroactive, located at Broadway at the Beach in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, keeping you retro with everything from 70s, 80s, and 90s. ShopRetroactive.com. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me. My guest this week is Scott from Scott on Tape. Now, Scott covers movie scenes, famous graves, true crime scenes, all here on YouTube. You can find his YouTube channel at Scott on Tape. Just search Scott on Tape on YouTube and you will find it. What I like about Scott, it's one of my favorite channels here on YouTube, and what I like about it is how he tells the story of the scene or the location while he's filming. Very interesting, very cool stuff. He kind of takes you on a tour with him at each scene. So make sure you check it out, Scott on Tape, here on YouTube. Right after you watch this conversation with Scott, we go behind the scenes of all his equipment, locations, what it takes to do a filming location, bunch more. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Thanks for watching.
It's the Rock and Roll Coffee Show, yeah, with Joe.
So you're not, where are you right now? Because I don't usually recognize that background in your videos.
No, this is actually my studio here. I'm going to shut the door so this is Toronto. This is my home in Toronto. So this is my studio where I work out of, where I do a lot of my editing and live chats and stuff like this. So,
sure.
Yeah, I usually do them here or in the other room. But there's a Leaf game on right now, so I wanted to not be distracted because there's TVs in the other room.
Yeah. Oh, we are recording now, by the way.
Yeah,
as you heard.
Yeah.
So being from Canada, you're a big hockey fan?
Big. Yeah.
Really?
Huge. I've actually crossed over now to. It happened in about the last 5-6 years where I've played hockey, coached hockey, loved hockey all my life, but now I'm such a Toronto Maple Leaf fan. I hate every other team. I can't watch hockey. I can watch any other game because I get too invested in like the standings, and all I care about is the Leafs. Like I'm the annoying Leafs fan. Like I can't. I just. I think about Leafs all the time.
There's a game on now, you said?
Yeah, playing the Rangers.
I feel privileged that you're joining me and not watching the game.
Of course, it's you know what? I missed the first period the other night. I was out doing something. I forget what I was doing. And then I laid down on my couch with my dog to watch the game, and I woke up and it was halfway through the third period. So it's not,
Yeah.
As long as it's on, and I can, I know.
Well, cool, man. So Scott, you have your channel. It's called Scott on Tape, right?
Yep.
Now I got to ask you, how did you get this idea to do this channel? Or have you always been interested in like behind the scenes type stuff since you were a kid? Or how did this all come up?
Well, yeah, I've always been involved in performing or acting. I wanted to be an actor my whole life when I was younger, and so I've always been into that. But I've also really always been into pop culture, anything to do with music, movies, TV, and so I would just take like when I would go on vacation with my parents, I'd go to like ask them to take me here, take me there, and then when Adventures in Babysitting came out when I was young, it was filmed not too far from where I lived in Toronto. And so I was like, what? Like the house is there? And then same with Cocktail. There were some scenes from Cocktail. So movies that I love. And then once I became old enough to start, go on vacations with like girlfriends and friends and stuff, I'd always drag them to the strangest places. Like we would just be like, we'd be in New York City. I'd be like, well, we got to stop by John F. Kennedy Jr.'s apartment while we're there. They're like, what? And I'll be like, yeah. And a good example is the one that I have told a lot, which is true. God bless my parents, my late parents. When I was young, we were driving to Florida, and you take I-75 and it goes through Atlanta. And where are you, by the way?
I'm in South Carolina.
Oh,
Myrtle
nice.
Beach.
Love it. We used to go there a lot, Surf Rider. And and so we were going through Atlanta, and I insisted that, and I was little, this is like before puberty, I insisted that we go to the I think it was Anyway, but you remember when Rob Lowe got caught in the hotel room with some girls, and then it
Yeah.
was a big
Hmm.
Hollywood scandal? I insisted that they stop at the hotel so I could go up and take a picture of the hotel room.
The hotel.
Yeah, no, I don't. And I was a kid, and my mother indulged my stuff, so she was like, "Okay." And then whenever I saw cemeteries on the side of the road, I'd stop. We'd stop, and for my friends. And anyway, so long story short, I was doing this for a long time, but also trying to be an actor and trying to make my own movies. And then I was, when you get a little older, your friends start having other lives. So I was like, I'll see what it's like to travel by myself for once. So I went down to I went back to California. This is around 2014. Then I went to Florida, and then I went to see the I think it was the My Girl tree from the movie My Girl, and then I thought, well, this would be cool to film. I honestly, up until about 2015, I thought YouTube only had music videos and clips from The Office. I didn't know people had channels. I didn't know anything about it. I had no clue. So then I took some video. I made a short video of me with my friend in the swamps of Florida looking for alligators, and I thought this would make a cool YouTube video. And then I sat on it for like 7 or 8 months, and then it just dawned on me. I was like, no, I'm going to make a full channel out of me going to all the places I love going, because I started discovering on YouTube other people were doing that.
Right.
I was like, wow, people do that. So it just kind of, I went to California, uploaded the Florida video of the alligators, went to California, filmed about 20 or 30 videos. You get 10 views on one, you get maybe 40 views that aren't your family, and somebody writes in the comments, cool video, and you're like, who are you? Like, say it's a rush, and then you get 100 views. So it gets very like, wow, maybe this is something that can happen. And then I got back from California, and I was out of videos, and I was like, oh, I never took into account I have to now go back somewhere and start doing it again, because other than Toronto I was like, I have to go on the road again. So I just started doing it, and then about a year into it, one of my videos hit big, and I realized I could possibly do this for a living, or I could possibly, make enough money to do it. And now it's like it's full time, and it's 24/7.
Yeah, yeah, that's your job now.
It's a job, yeah.
That's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Now, you mentioned your first video being the alligators. I've heard you talk a lot about alligators in your videos. You don't like alligators, I don't think, right?
No, I do. I really do. I was
You
just
do.
that's really, you see, like, it's funny that you mentioned that, because literally today I was looking at pictures of alligators, and I was comparing them to like, it's just so weird. I was comparing them to pictures that I have, and then I was like, oh, should I upload some alligator pictures of mine today? Like, who does that? But you're right. I know I find them I find it fascinating, like, to see them in the wild. It's crazy seeing them in zoos and reptile places, but to see them in the wild, and then when you're in Florida, which is just an insane place, like, people are living with prehistoric giant creatures roaming around their streets and in their rivers, and
Mhm.
and I'm just like, what's going on down here? How do you live it? And I remember I went for this walk in near Ocala in Eustis, Florida, and it was just, I was waiting for a friend, so I was walking along this boardwalk that just goes along Lake Eustis, and it was and it kept saying, beware of the alligators, don't get too close to the railing, alligators, and just warning after warning. I was like, how are people living? How do you, like, this is not, I was like, this is not a fun walk.
Yeah, I used to live there for about 35 years in the Tampa, Sarasota area.
That's where
Yeah,
I was just in Tampa earlier this year. I love it there.
yeah, it's a great place. I moved out
Traffic
of there
comes
though.
full.
But yeah, I mean, growing up, we used to build the forts out in the woods and stuff, and you always have to, when you're around any lakes or anything, be aware of
Right?
the alligators. And you
Yeah.
don't go swimming in the lakes down there.
No, you
Now,
can't. That's what's crazy about it. You can't go swim. Like, I mean, and I know people that do. I met these
yeah.
kids in they were little. I was filming a Friday the 13th Part 7 filming location in the middle of it's in something lake, starts with a B, Burn Lake, Alabama, like tiny, tiny, tiny town. And like, blink and you miss it. And there were these little kids, and so they asked me what I was doing. They're just adorable. So we were talking, and then their grandmother came along, and we were talking, and they wanted to show me some other where I could find some real alligators, because I was talking about alligators from Jason and stuff. And they took me to this lake, and they said, "Oh yeah, there's alligators here. We've seen them in the water, and they've come up before when we were swimming." And I'm like, "What do you mean when you've been swimming?" And they go, "Well, we swim here." I'm like, "Where it's alligator infested?" They're like, "Yeah, they don't bother us." I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
totally
no.
do." Like, people are built a little differently down there when they go in the water. Like, I mean, I was really when I did that Friday 13th Part 7. I remember I was trying because I wanted to touch every crystal lake. I've touched 9 out of the 12, so I have to make sure I get my hand in the water. So I've touched a crystal lake. It's just, and I was petrified that an alligator.
Just putting your hand in there.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
he's watching me.
So you got a few more lakes to touch. How come you haven't been there yet?
There's one from the one from Jason X, Jason Goes to Hell. That was green screen. That was filmed in Toronto, actually. So no lake exists. The one from part 4 does exist. It's north of it's actually up in above Beverly Hills. But the other locations from part 4 you can't get to. The people won't allow you to film on their property at all. They want nothing to do with Friday 13th anymore. So I've never, because I'm like, well, why go to one tiny part of the bit? So there's that, and then Jason Goes to Hell, which is part 9. Yeah, part 9. I forget where that lake is, but I hate that movie.
So you just haven't been there.
Yeah, so I just have never bothered to do it. But I actually did find about 8 locations from it, so I'll probably do it next time I'm out in LA.
Yeah, yeah. Do you keep a list of places you want to be?
Yeah, yeah,
You do.
I do. I have tons of lists on my phone, and then I'm old school too. I'll write out lists the day of, usually if there's a lot, just so I can look at the car seat beside me and be like, okay, here, because there's time is of the essence when I film. Usually, I'm trying to get as much as I can wherever I am. But I keep lists. I have lists for different regions, like Southwest, Deep South, Florida by itself, East Coast, New York City, LA. And then I just got back from LA, and this is the first time I started erasing off my phone which ones I did, which now that I realize I got back, I'm like, that's now confusing because now I can't remember what I did. So, but I have lengthy lists, and I just started planning next year, like in terms of different places.
Hmm. Do you find it challenging to visit some of the places you want to go to, whether it be because, like you said, the people don't want you on the land, or is there other obstacles that you face when you're trying to get to places?
Yeah, there's been a few like there like not so like I mean cemeteries, because I do a lot of graves, and with famous people and stuff, that's never a problem really. But in LA, I didn't have I've had some issue before because they recognize me because I've done a lot of videos in cemeteries, so they recognize the hair and they're like, what are you filming? And but like private property houses, you can film from the street. True crime, when I do my true crime videos, those are always, I gotta be stealth and get in there, get what I want to get and get out. And then there's some filming locations, there's about 3 or 4 that big ones on my list, and they all want to charge, which I understand. They're most of them are just regular houses or in the middle of nowhere or whatever, but there's 4 specific ones I can think of. And one of them called me back, and they were all excited to have me come up and film. They checked on my channel, and they're like, so $3,000 deposit. And I was like,
Excuse me?
I was like, I always offer to if it's a company or something or a studio or anywhere, I'm like, I will promote the hell out of your studio or out of your place. I'll make it like a commercial for you. Like, I'll talk you up, make it worth it for them. And that's worked before. But usually, most places I go are just kind of open to the public, and I run into problems sometimes about trespassing in the United States because I won't trespass.
Yeah, that's no good.
Yeah, because I don't want to get deported. So
Yeah.
I will never trespass in the United States. My friends will for me, if I have to, if I'm filming with friends. But yeah, but no, never really any serious problems.
Hmm. Do you film most of the time on your own? Usually by yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, I do a lot of collaborations with people. I love helping out YouTubers that are just starting out, paying it back, so to speak.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that because you see
That's awesome.
enthusiasm, and I like to see that enthusiasm. Like a lot of other YouTubers, I film with one of the biggest that does kind of this genre, and a nicer guy I couldn't never met, like so nice, so down to earth, and and he took a chance filming with me, and then we filmed for a long time. So I always film with other people, but I get the most work done when my back's to the wall and kind of like I gotta get this and I gotta go here, 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 here. If somebody wants to come along, it's chaotic and it's a lot of like drive here, get out, drive here.
Yeah.
So I'd rather just do that by myself usually.
Sure, sure. Now, how much you got to put a lot of time into research because you know what? One thing I like about your channel is you kind of tell a story as you're going along. So you're
Right.
telling a story about that person or what happened or whatever it may be. But that's a lot of information.
Ugh, it is.
I mean, how much time goes into that research?
A lot. It's thankful. A lot of it. I mean, thankfully, because of my theater background, I've never had a problem memorization, right? But I don't want to read something like I don't want to have it coming out of my mouth like a script. So I used to kind of do that when I started. Like my earlier videos are very kind of, like Michael Landon was born in, and I'll go. And now I'm just like, we all know I'm talking like myself, and whatever thought comes to mind, I'll talk about, and then I'll have points that I want to hit about the person or the place, So there's a lot of research the night before. There's a lot of research right on spot, and then the problem is if I'm filming more than one subject a day, I got a here's a compartment for this, and then I got to switch my head. Okay, now I'm doing this. But I like what you said about telling a story because that's what I like. I consider each video I do a short film almost because it's not just me at the place. I put a beginning, I put a middle, and an end. So not just to the actual story I'm talking about, but actually to the video you're watching. There's me getting to the place. There's me talking about it, and there's an ending with me talking about whatever, thoughts I have or showing stuff. So I try to make it very like flow like that. And a lot of people have said it feels like they're along with me, which is the biggest compliment because I love that. Because essentially everybody who watches my channel or is watching it is there with me because I'm talking to somebody. I'm
Mhm.
not like I'm talking out loud to a camera, but I'm talking to the person watching.
Right. Was that hard for you at first or no because of the theater background?
No, it was at first I was I was a little I never wanted to be YouTubey, like, hey everybody, what's going on? Hey, like and subscribe. Okay, here we go. Like I never wanted to be that. I knew that. I want to be myself. And then I was a little too stiff, and I'm not sure, but one of my best friends and my mom at the time said, yeah, they're good, but you're not yourself. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, it's exactly what I am. They're like, no, you're not really yourself on camera. I'm like, I'm being exact. They're like, well, you're like a sarcastic prick. Hello. My mom would say that. She'd be like, that's. She goes like, when you're going to place, she goes, you're just kind of showing it, but you should be more like yourself, and that kind of changed things. I was like, yeah, you know what? Like, uh, if I let an F-bomb fly or whatever, if I go off on a rant about something else while I'm there, I usually leave it in now and just
Mhm.
talk.
Yeah, yeah. The editing process now, that's another whole part of it. I mean, what goes into that? Because I know just editing these conversations that I have, it takes me a while. And
Yeah.
you have some long videos with a lot of footage.
Yeah, I mean, it gets tricky with using footage from like other sources and stuff because you got to be able to make sure that it's in the public domain and then the music because I want to like sometimes I'll get back and I'll be like, okay, I got to edit this video tonight. And I'm like, God, please don't mention more than 4 movies that this guy did, or please, like when I'm watching the footage, and then there I go, I'm like, oh, he was in da da da. So then I'm like, oh, I gotta go get this picture, this picture, this
Oh,
picture.
yeah, yeah.
So I was just editing one that's going up tomorrow, and I was looking, I was like, Well, thank God I didn't know as much about this guy as much as I do other people. So but then I left a big space for a voiceover, just a little bit more about his earlier life, because when you see the video go up tomorrow, everybody knows him. But so yeah, the editing process can take hours, and it can be some of the videos when I talk, like the one I put up 2 days ago about Johnny Lewis, who was an actor from Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah, watch
Like,
that one.
yeah, did you watch that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I told the story on the street, right, while I was walking, and didn't really leave anything out. So when I went to edit it, I was like, okay, like I pretty much told the story. I just have to cut out some long pauses and some extra shots I did, then throw in pictures of him, and the video was done. But that's not the case for most videos. Most, I want to add in a lot of stuff.
Right. But you don't do a lot of overdubbing of like after the fact, right? Like
No,
I watched your JonBenét one, and you did. I think you did on that one.
I think I did at her grave.
I think so. I think so.
I can't remember. I may have. I went. That was a one that was so. You know what? When it comes to true crime, there's like the Johnny Lewis story. It's pretty straightforward. What happened with JonBenét? I mean, there's dates to remember. There's this suspect. There's so much more to remember. So I probably did think to myself that day, you know what? Because I remember I was going to somebody else's grave afterwards, and I still got to put that video up. So I had that story in my head. So I can't. Yeah, I probably did do a voiceover, but like if I have to, I have to. I don't like doing them. Like I don't like doing them because I like being in the moment, and also I don't like the actual process of doing them. I get like, here's another thing I gotta put in. But as you know, when you edit these, like it can be daunting. I've got an hour-long video coming for January 1st of a huge topic that's the biggest video I've ever wanted to do, probably. And I added a little bit here, a little bit there, because it's so daunting. There's so much to it, and so like there's about 15 to 20 locations, and it's just a matter of like, sometimes I get like, oh, can I even finish this? Is this possible?
Oh man.
But then you get through it at some point.
Yeah.
And then
so
when you get it done, it's like, wow.
Yeah. So you said about 20 locations or so. I mean, how long does that take to get to all those places? Or are they all in the same area, or?
They were all close. It's in the deep south, so it's around where I did one on Robert Johnson not too long ago, and so it takes place around those same towns. So I did it over the course of 2.5 days.
Okay.
And I had a friend with me named Randy, who has a channel named Big Bake on the Move. He's just started out. He's very, very good with true crime, and he's very good at saying, okay, we should get this, and did you get this? And we should go. Don't forget this. And I would say, well, I want to do this and this. He'd be like, oh, I didn't think about that, because he's learning. And I said, well, that's you telling a story, but you can go off a little bit, then come back. So it's learning from each other.
Right. Is true crime? You do a lot of that. Is that one of your favorite subjects to cover?
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, I've gotten some good responses from family when I've done true crime, family of the victims. So that really, when I first got a couple of those, I was like, wow, that's heavy. That's heavy stuff. Like one of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims' sisters reached out to me. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah, this is a couple of years ago. And that really went, because I think it was that one that really kind of made me think, what I'm doing is not necessarily the same as other people. It's not exploitive like some documentaries you see on Netflix or whatever, because I always concentrate on the victim, and it's not just me saying I want to concentrate. It's just natural to me. I'm like, I talk about the victim more or less, Johnny was tricky because what he did was terrible, but he had a motorcycle accident, brain damage, and doesn't excuse murder, but there's a story behind that, right? Mental health issue.
Yeah, I was watching the BTK one as well, and you didn't like to call his name, So
No,
I think you called him the loser or something like
the
that.
loser. The loser.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actual video I did. That was when I. That was 2 years ago. December, like 2 years ago. It'll be 3 years ago this January. So it was 2020 of January. I started thinking in December. I was like, what can I do in what can I do next? And then I was like, well, I always want to do BTK. Then I always want to do James Byrd, the African American man who was murdered in Texas, down in Jasper, Texas. And I'm like, I always wanted to do Dazed and Confused. I love those locations. So all of a sudden, I just started thinking about all these places, and they all came at once, like literally within a day. I was like, so I planned this route from Wichita all the way through Texas. But I landed, woke up in Wichita, Kansas in January, which is like it's so cold and gray. And then I mean Kansas in the summer is very beautiful. I love those states. I love Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska. But in Wichita in January is very. And I just woke up and I was like, wow, this is gonna be tough. And then literally, Joe, within 2 hours, I was done the video. And that was like 10 locations because there was no traffic. It was like a Tuesday afternoon or a Wednesday afternoon. There was no traffic getting around. And that one, because I researched and read a couple of books, there's no voiceover in that. I knew when I went to the location, I knew exactly the name of the person, his victim, and why I call him the loser is because first of all, he killed a child. That to me is, that's the worst, one of the most heinous crimes you can do. And then also he's so smug, and he thinks he's so, even after he got caught, he was just so smug and arrogant and thinking and dude, you're not a tough guy
Right.
when you pull a gun on a woman in her house by herself in the middle of the night with a stocking over your head. You're not
Hmm.
he bothered me out of all the serial killers. I think I hate him the most.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as the movie locations, I mean, what makes you decide, hey, I want to go cover this one? Is it just if you like the movie? Is it the scenes? What is it?
It's got to be the movie. I mean, I've done a couple of TV shows, like 90210 is one of my favorite shows. I grew up with it and watching it and wanting to live inside of it. So I have very few TV shows I cover, but that one I do. But when it comes to movies, I'm a big horror guy. So, but I really only like certain genres of horror, like the Halloween, Friday the 13th series. And then, I just think of movies that I love. I've had requests for all sorts of movies all the time. I'm just like, well, I haven't seen it. Or the issue could be not that I haven't seen it, it's that is it worth it for me to do it? Because I don't think about things necessarily in terms of views. Like, is this going to get a lot of views? I never know what's going to get views. You never know. But I do know when it comes to filming locations, it's hit or miss. And sometimes I'm like, you know what, I'd like to do that, but it's going to take me 2 days to film multiple locations, and then those filming locations take, because I put the clips of the movie in to put those in. It's going to take 10 hours of editing, and then maybe 5,000 people see it, 10,000. I did Brokeback Mountain in Calgary, Alberta, and Alberta is a huge province in Canada. I went up and down the province to do Brokeback. It was my what I thought was my piece de resistance. I was like, this is the best film location video, and it's great. I love it. And I don't even think it hit 10,000 views. And then the next day I went to the farmhouse from Superman 1978, stood outside, did a video of that, and then went to the train tracks that he runs beside Lois in the car, 100,000 views. So I put no effort into. I was like, this is kind of where he ran. I think it's right around here. You can kind of tell if you look, and it was like, yeah, that's it. And then it just blows up. I did First Blood, Rambo.
You did First Blood?
Yeah.
Is that on your channel? I haven't seen that one, I don't think.
Yeah.
I got to check that one out.
I went to I did two. So look for two. There's First Blood, Rambo, and then there's First Blood junkyard location, because the junkyard's a real hike to get to. And I knew that people had covered First Blood extensively. And I don't check to see what other people have done, but back in the day, before I did YouTube, I knew there were First Blood, like before I started YouTube.
Yeah.
Started discovering it, I was like, oh, people went to First Blood. That's cool. So when I did, I didn't think anybody would care. and then 100,000, 150,000 views or whatever one of them has. And then I did Friday, Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, and those all did huge views, really, really big. And then I'll do Reality Bites, which is one of my favorite movies, and that video is struggling at like 6,000 views.
Oh,
So, you know,
really?
yeah, but I'm doing
Yeah.
it. But see, that didn't stop me because I have another Reality Bites one coming that I just filmed.
Yeah.
I'm not
So you
going to
do
give
it if
up
you
on-
like it.
I have to because
Yeah.
when I go to film locations that I like, I'm excited to do them. I'm excited to talk about them. And if it's not something, if it like I can't do Stranger Things, people will always ask me. I'm like, I don't watch the show. I can't do Breaking Bad because I haven't seen the show. Sopranos, I've seen a couple of episodes, and there's a couple of things I would want to do for that. But you know, there's more uh I did I did Beyonce Crazy in Love, where she shot the video with Jay-Z downtown LA. And because the stage that she danced on is still there. In downtown LA, it's just there. It's just wooden old stage. So I went up and danced like Beyonce. That was me. That to me was more. I was having more fun doing that, and you know, we didn't get huge views, but like
Yeah.
I still did it because I always know that the next video I put up, if it's a grave or if it's true crime or something, it's not people will like something coming up. So if something doesn't hit big, I don't get too upset about it.
Sure, sure. Now the true crime, back to the true crime. Has there been a time that anyone has contacted you regarding your videos about maybe some evidence that would help the case?
Yeah, I get that. I get people. Yeah, there's one guy actually got a message back about something that he was a witness to one of the crimes I did, and I get a lot of that. And people, I do get. I'm not probably once a day now. I get a message from somebody somewhere saying there's this case. Can you go and do something on it? And can you? And I'm like, well, I can't just fly to here or there, you know, just for one case. And people a lot of unsolved stuff. And I think it's kind of like, you know, like it's weird. Like when people watch Law and Order SVU, they write to Mariska Hargitay thinking she's a real SVU agent.
Hmm.
You know,
I didn't know that.
yeah, they write to. She gets a lot. She writes it on.
That's wild.
I think she writes it on her Instagram or Twitter. I am not really. Like, share your stories, sure, but I can't help you.
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of people now are starting to write to because I do too much true crime. They're like, "Can you go and investigate?" I'm like, "Investigate?"
You Magnum PI?
Yeah, like you cop. I'm not, I don't know. Like I get that. I get that a fair amount where people are like, "There's an unsolved crime in this town. You should come and do a story on it. Maybe you can help break the case." I'm like, "Break the case? I'm not Beretta. I don't know how I can help you," which is nice, but like you know. I get when it's unsolved cases, I get frustrated because I'm so on the side of the victim. I want the person caught. So, but I've got a few unsolved ones I'm doing in the new year where I'm just like, you know, maybe it could help if there's, you know, people get their eyes on it. You never know. I don't know, like, but I do like doing true crime, especially when the locations are still there. You know.
Mm-hmm.
They're always creepy and scary, like not scary.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know what you mean. Yeah,
they're creepy and they're ominous, and to see them in person. And what I like is, and I was just talking to a friend about it yesterday, because he was saying I like what you did here. I said, well, you know, when you watch a Netflix documentary or any crime documentary, they'll show an establishing shot of the house like this or like that, and then they'll go to a talking head talking about what happened. And I'm like, but I want to see the house and I want to see more of the neighborhood. You know, that's what a picture's worth 1,000 words. I always believe that. So I'm really more intent. You know, I'll tell the story, but I want to make sure you get a sense of the surroundings and where it happened and what the town's like. You know what I mean? That really adds so much.
Yeah, you do circle around like I think it was the Susan Smith one at the lake. You did like a full round and kind of showed what it looked like around it and where the ramp used to be, and that's very cool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that's not far from, that's South Carolina, right? Yeah,
South Carolina. Yeah.
It's what's that lake?
I don't know where the lake is though.
I can't remember what that lake's called, but it was on my route back, but it was really out of the way for me to get there. I remember, and then when I got there, it's funny because, well, it was pouring rain, and I thought it's got to end. So I went for a drive through the town, and I took some like B-roll and stuff, and then I got back to location. It was still pouring, so I was like, well, I can't stay overnight. I got a while to go, so I filmed it in the pouring rain, and
You were soaked.
I was soaked, and it added to it. I think it added to the mood of the video, and then and how it, like it's a weird, it's a gloomy spot.
Yeah.
It's a gloomy spot. So I think that kind of added to it with the rain and all that. And I can always, I've done over, I think it's like 830 videos I have on my channel, and then I have at least 200 not yet uploaded. Still,
Oh wow, 200.
oh yeah, at least. And somebody can mention a video to me, I'll forget that I did. I'll forget it sometimes that I did it, but then they'll be like, "Oh, you did this, you told this." I was like, "Oh," and then I'll remember I'll remember that whole day, like it just like so. That Susan Smith day, I remember everything about it. I remember getting to the boys' graves at later on in the day, and it's still pouring rain, and finding the graves. It's not hard once you get to the cemetery because there's so much stuff around their graves. And then just driving away and being like, I didn't want to do anything else that day. I drove where I drove to, but I drove north, and it gets to you when it's a subject like that.
Sure, sure. How soon do you go out to locations like after something like the Idaho murders that just happened? Right now would be too soon. I'm assuming to go out to something like that. So how much time do you give it?
I usually well I usually wait. I mean, I can't. It depends where I am too. It depends on how close. If I'm in the States and something's happened or whatever, then I could maybe do it. I'll give you an example. Like when I was just in LA, I got there November 1st or 2nd, and Coolio died, Leslie Jordan died, Aaron Carter died. So I got a ton of messages on Instagram, YouTube, like just constant. Like, are you gonna do Aaron Carter? Are you gonna do Coolio? I was like, I'm not Nightcrawler, Like I don't want to go to the scene of the crime right
Yeah.
away. And then I was like, you know what? Two of them, Leslie Jordan and Coolio, are so close to where I am in Hollywood, and I love both them. Why not go and talk about them at the location where sadly they died? And then Aaron Carter, I was like, I'm not sure what I know much about Aaron Carter. I know more about the Backstreet Boys because I worked in the record store in the 90s. I was like, then I started reading his story, and I was like, man, that's that's some sad stuff. So usually I do wait, but if something it's if something happens and I'm there, there's two big cases in Toronto. One is solved, and you'll see them soon on my channel when I film them. One is unsolved, which I can't do because I don't want to get killed.
Can't give anything away.
I don't want to get, the people that did it are still out there. I'm like,
Yeah.
but there's lots of, but there's one. So I went to the locations where they happened the day of when the news broke in Toronto. So I have footage of me there that I saw 4 years ago and 3 years ago. So with the police, with the bodies and everything, with the digging, and I've got all that. So
Wow.
I do go right over, like if it was in Toronto, but I didn't do the video yet.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
will look, say, hey, by the way, like in my River Phoenix video I just put up,
hmm
that was 5 years in the making. I said, look, I've had a hard time with this video because of timing, because of tone, because I want to do his house first, and the Viper Room is not easy to get into. There's a whole bunch of reasons. I said, but here you go. Here's footage of me inside the Viper Room 5 years ago. Then here's me outside the Viper Room 4 years ago when the same payphone was there. So I do, I bank stuff. Now I'll keep footage. I just did some stuff in LA that I have to go back. I did something in Chicago in September that requires me to be in New York for part of the video. So I'll do half and half and
That's
wait.
very cool.
I did Randy Rhodes in Florida, the plane crash site. And I didn't know when I was in California. I didn't know I was going back in November or whenever I went back. Oh no, that was March I did it in Florida. Then May I was back in California. I didn't know I was going to California, man. And then, so when I was at Randy Rhodes' site, I was like, the crash, I was like, I don't want to just talk about the crowd. I want to talk about, I want to show his final resting place. And, because I knew how ornate it was, and kind of end it with something a little more, at least, there's something. So I said, okay, I'll wait. And then,
Does that eat at you when you have this footage and you're like, man, I just need one more shot, but it takes you 2 years to get it?
Yep. There's one thing that a huge crime story, and I'll tell you off camera if you want.
Sure.
I like surprising people, like oh wow, he went into this. But there was one where I went all over Arkansas, Tennessee for this big giant case, and then I went to Missouri, the top of Missouri, like way, like there's nothing around. St. Louis is far away, Branson is far away, Memphis is far away. There's nothing around this China. And I went there and I couldn't find what I was looking for.
No.
And I looked and looked, and then the sun went down. I started to drive around. It was a great cemetery because there was victims, and there was the last victim, and I couldn't find the grave. So I had my headlights on going through the cemetery. Then I got out again, and it was freezing cold. I was walking with a flashlight, going to each grave. It's a pretty big cemetery for a small town. And then I had to end the video. I said, well, I didn't find it. And that was a year ago. And I was like, so upset and depressed because I was like, I can't believe out of the 3 victims, I missed this one. And then I haven't put it up because I said, you know what, I'm going to force myself to go back to that small town. And I did. And I went back in November. I drove 7 hours out of my way because I pinpointed it online closer to where the grave would be. And it took me about 5 minutes when I like instead of like 3.5 hours. I did that. And then another one, I did a huge serial killer case that's coming, and one of the victims is in Ohio. I started filming in February. In Ohio in February, snow is everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The people said, at the time, said who you're looking for is around here. They said, but we have no way of finding which exact spot. So I went down February, March, spent all in Florida, came back up in April, snow had melted, went back to the cemetery and got it.
Cool. Now, how do you know where the graves are?
Well, there's a great website called Find a Grave.
Mm.
And that's really good for most. And now they don't normally, they do when it's a celebrity, they'll have a pin like on Google Maps, like you just click, it'll show you and something. Not always is it correct. Sometimes it's within 10 yards, maybe 100 yards.
Gives you an idea though.
Yeah, or sometimes it's exactly right. But then other times it just says the cemetery. So I got to go there, go in and ask at the cemetery, where is this person or whatever. And sometimes a cemetery will be so small. If it's not on Find a Grave, if it's a victim in this small town, cemetery is so small, it's not hard to find their grave because something. But I've had in Illinois, Chicago, I had to go to the same cemetery 4 times with the office telling me where this person. Yummy. I did a video. I don't know if you watched that one. He was Robert.
No, I don't know.
Sandifer. He's an 11-year-old who killed a 14-year-old in Chicago in the 90s, and he was on the cover of Time magazine, like our babies are becoming killers, sort of thing. And it's a story that was stuck with me. So I finally did that, and they kept giving me directions to his grave. I had it on Find a Grave, so I thought, here, he couldn't find it. Cemetery closed. Had to come back. They gave me directions. Nope. Went back again. They gave me directions again. Nope, not there. By the time I get there, they're closed. Like the office closes early. So I went back in the morning, and then finally one lady pulls out an old dusty, like one of their old, and this is a huge cemetery, thick book. And she's looking, and there's dust coming off it. And she's looking at, and I was shocked that she didn't know that none of them knew who I was talking about because it was a huge story in the 90s. And she goes, "Oh, he's unmarked. There's no headstone." And I was like, "Lady, I've been wondering." So she gave me the closest headstone. She showed me exactly. There's like they have maps of the graves where they actually have like hand drawn Like this is where the head would be and the feet back to back. So she said, "It's where her feet will end." She goes, "Walk 6 feet, her casket. That's where Yummy is. That's where Robert Sandifer is." And I was like,
Huh.
wow. Yeah.
Wow. Now, you get some pretty good, I mean, the quality of your videos is pretty good most of the time, too. I mean, sometimes the audio gets a little crazy with whatever's around you, but I mean, what are you recording with? Is it your phone or you got a camera? What are you using?
No, I use an iPhone 13. You know, I upgrade every year. I didn't upgrade this year to the 14 because it's just like it's enough already. Like every year. I used to use a Canon and I sold it. And I don't even know why I sold it. I didn't need it. I should have kept it. I was using for my first year and a half, I think it was. I was using like a big vlogging camera on a stick, like like a stick with a vlogging camera that I'd ordered, and I was all like, look at me, look what I can do. And I was walking through Venice Beach, and I was filming, and every time I turned the camera left or right, especially left, because I was walking north, so all the guys selling the stuff on the side, like Venice Beach is just packed with people. I got people swearing at me, yelling at me, "Don't turn the camera on, don't film our property, don't film our stuff."
Really?
Yeah, they were very adamant. As soon as they saw this giant camera and me talking and going, they knew it was something other than just personal. So I went back to my car. This is exactly how it all changed. I put the camera away, took out my phone. I think it was like an 8 at the time. I don't know, an iPhone 10 or 8. Walked right back, did my video. Nobody said a word.
Wow.
Because they think I'm a tourist. I don't know how they didn't recognize me from 2 minutes before, but so from then on, it was like a light bulb. I was like, this is the key. Because now when I go to somebody's, like, if I have to knock on a door, or if I have to go inside a museum or something, you can go in with a camera phone a lot easier than with a giant camera. And I don't want to call attention to myself. I don't need to show, look at me, I'm a YouTuber. I don't care. Like I just want to do what I do. And iPhone 13 especially is such high quality with the 4K if I want, or 1080. I shoot in 1080. And I just realized, like, I would always say, like, knock on doors or I'm from Canada. Like I put on my little voice. Like, do you think I could get in there and do you think I could get a shot? I do, and that's what I do. So combined with the phone, I get access to things that a lot of other people don't, because they show up with
cameras.
Yeah, and then I've got a great microphone. I don't have it; it's in my bag, but I've got little lav mics now, and I've been using it for about a year now that you can't see on camera. But also, I've got a mic. It's not anywhere near as big as this, but it's almost as powerful. That just goes right into the phone, and I'm still, like, the audio levels I know go in and out. So, but I watch other videos sometimes. I'm like, you can't hear a thing they're saying. This one's got great for the wind, and I'm like, wind is the worst. The wind the wind I can block with different windsock over that mic and stuff. But if you're shooting on a busy road, if you're shooting, if you're shooting inside a restaurant, somewhere. Like, people have to understand, like.
Yeah. I mean, most of the time it sounds fine. And I think I kind of like the way, like, sometimes you have those audio issues. I think that adds to it a little bit.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
I kind of think that too. Like, I get maybe one every once a week. Somebody like, dude, fix your audio for this video, that video. I'm like, who are you?
Yeah. No, I think that would take away. I mean, if your audio was perfect, crisp, like we're talking now, I think that would take away from the videos a little bit.
Right, it sounds kind of flat. Like I like the background noises, and I like I do try to, if there's wind, I'll go off I'll go underneath something, or get my car door so you're not seeing the car door, and I'll be sort of type of thing. There's little tricks to do, but I haven't had any thank God, haven't had any bad audio problems for a while. But that's always what I'm thinking of before. I mean, because I can see when I'm recording, I see the red dots going and across the numbers. It's the film. What I'm getting is recording, but you never know until you get back or until you listen. What's that audio like? And usually, great.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have, is there like this, my show is the guests I have on my show are just people kind of like how you pick your filming locations. I pick my guests for me, who I want to talk to.
Oh, that's
You know
cool.
what,
Yeah.
sometimes they get high views, sometimes they don't, but I had fun talking to my guests.
Right.
And all of the other podcasts similar to mine, we all know each other. Is it
Right.
the same way in your genre? I mean, are you guys helpful to each other all the time, or is there competition of, oh, I got to get to this place first, or
Yeah, I think yeah, we all know each other. There's a fair amount of us that not a fair amount, maybe I mean, I don't know, 15. I can think of like 6 or 7 off the top of my head who I'm friends with. Um, and some I know are very competitive and want to get the highest views of anybody and want to do it before anybody else and want to, and there is that element. And then there's other guys that are huge, that way bigger than me, that are just like, yeah, of course, like, go and do it. Don't let that stop you, just because I did it. And that's what I say to people like who want to do something. They're like, oh, but you already did it. I'm like, so what? If you want to do it, you're gonna have a different perspective, a different outlook, and you want to see it. I said, if it's organic and you want to do it, do it. If it's calculated, I don't know, then it'd be a bit of a thing. But no, a lot of us, we do know each other. And I always say, and it sounds weird, but I don't consider myself in competition with anybody. Because I'm just doing what I do and hoping people watch, and I don't check out anybody else's channel first. Like, did somebody else do this? I find that out afterwards. I'm like, oh shit, somebody else did this and they got this many views, whatever. Because I'm in competition with myself to get better. I just want to get better and better and make the video good. And also, even like the who would can be considered my competition or who are in the same genre, I wish them luck and I want them to do well, because it keeps people on YouTube and my videos will get recommended theirs. And I know my videos, help other people who are bigger than me. Like they say, oh, if you like this, so it's all good. Like I'm like, and I was honored to film some bigger YouTubers. I was so honored to film with them, and then other people, I was just like, maybe don't need to do this again. But you know, because sometimes ego and I don't know. But there's more. We're all friendly, but I think there's probably a healthy competition. I think within each of us, but I don't. I have a feeling for this podcast, you might be the only one getting Scott on tape, so you're okay.
okay.
There's not a lot of demand right now. So your other podcast, like, he got Scott on tape.
Yeah.
But don't be surprised if somebody calls me tomorrow and says you want to do it. I'll be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if they call you tomorrow, you know where they saw you.
Yeah.
How about there's some big movies that I don't think you've covered. Like, have you ever been to the Star Wars scenes?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
you have?
Yeah, I did actually.
See, I got to go deeper in your rabbit hole there.
Yeah, go to my movies playlist, movie locations playlist. I've got movie locations and I got horror locations. But the Star Wars is I don't know if I have any Star Wars stuff around right now, but I'm a huge Star Wars fan. No, that's not Star Wars.
But they were down in Mexico too, right? Some of those?
No, they did. Well, no, they did. Oh,
I thought Luke's uncle's house was down in Mexico.
oh no, that's in near Morocco. That's in
Really?
Africa. Yeah, yeah, that whole Tunisia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's all Tunisia, and then Death Valley. So all of Tatooine is Death Valley, and the one part of Luke's uncle and Uncle Owen, Aunt Beru. That's there. So I did all the Star Wars locations in Death Valley because I love Death Valley, but going to those locations is not easy in Death Valley. It's a lot of walking. It's not, so I matched up a lot of shots, but I'm just like, like you got to walk down into this crevice and it just gets a little much. But I went to Return of the Jedi. I did the location for the speeder bike chase.
Oh, in the woods, in the forest?
Yeah, that's Crescent City. So I did a lot at California, and that was cool because some of the logs are still in the same position that they set up.
So it looked like the film.
Oh yeah. I put it side by side. It's like crazy. And then I did And then I did another Return of the Jedi that you just reminded me of, which I did 3 years ago, which is where the Jabba the Hutt's barge, Luke and they save Han Solo, and I did that location, which is crazy, but the wind was unbelievable. That's far south California, almost in Arizona. So that one I may have to not put up. But if you look I put up a video, I think I called it the most important Star Wars location you never knew existed. And it's in the valley, in San Fernando Valley. It's just this street you walk off of like Ventura Boulevard or something. And there was this tiny building that's still there. And that was Lucasfilm back in 1977. All they gave them was a building, and it was no air conditioning. So it was so hot inside. They had to do all the effects outside in this parking lot. So all the Death Star stuff, all of that, you can see behind the scenes footage of them in the parking lot with the building right beside it working on. So I went to that parking lot. I was like, this is hallowed ground. This is cooler than Death Valley.
Yeah.
And this is easier than Death Valley.
Now, how do you find a location in Death Valley? I mean, isn't it pretty much all desert?
Yeah, no, it's desert and mountains. There's a lot of mountains and very.
But I mean, how do you know? Oh, this is where that was at.
Well, you would, unless you. Back in the day, I don't know. Back in the day, I don't know how they would even get an elephant out there. Like when I just now, I'm like, how would you get an elephant to some of these locations? Because the elephant's dressed up as the Banthu or whatever it's called. But now, when you go to Death Valley, they have a map at Stovepipe Wells, one of the big resorts. Star Wars map. So,
okay.
And it's also online. You can look it up, and they'll tell you exactly where. And once you get there, you'll be like, wait a minute. If you have a screenshot, this doesn't look. And then you turn around, and like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
And you walk through where R2D2 got kidnapped by the
Jawas.
Yeah, you see that exact one where the Jawas pop out, and stuff like that, which is, it sounds like
awesome.
You're a Star Wars fan, so it's really cool.
Yeah,
That's a vacation I would recommend people to take, is go up to Death Valley. It gets hot in summer, obviously, it's 130 degrees, but if you're a Star Wars fan, that's like the ultimate.
Yeah. You ever go to locations and be like not what you expected? Like, for example, when I was in Hollywood, I went to Nightmare on Elm Street house, which is one street over from Halloween's house.
Yeah.
And it's like right off the strip. But you would never think that watching the movie. You ever go somewhere and be like, what in the world?
Yeah, I mean, that's Genesee Street where the Nightmare House is. And so I've done a couple of videos from there. And yeah, then right down the street, my friends told me, because I've done all the Halloween locations, but I forgot about the babysitter's houses 2 or 3 years ago. When I did them, I didn't bother. I didn't think about them. So, I was just doing a few locations. And then they were like, well, you got to add in the Halloween house. I'm like, they're here in Hollywood. And I'm like, yeah. And then like something like the Happy Days house, which you think, okay, it's in Los Angeles because it's written about famously. The Happy Days house is not really in Wisconsin. And then you look at the house, a picture of it, you think, okay, that's in Los Angeles. That's got to be Pasadena. That's got to be, Altadena. That's got to be far out. It's not gonna, but it's right in Hollywood. It's like all these regular houses, and all of a sudden there's this
there it is,
White House. That was the Happy Days. It's weird. So yeah. Sometimes I get to a place, I'm just like, and I'll drive by something, I'm like, that looks familiar, and it turns out it's from a movie or from a TV show. That happens a lot.
Has there been locations you wanted to go to watching the film, and then you realize that it was a set or not something you can really do?
There's a Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm not a huge Nightmare on Elm Street fan. Like, not huge, but like I said, I like more like
I'm surprised since you like Friday 13th and Halloween's, you don't like the nightmares.
Yeah, but because Jason and Michael are real, right?
Whatever you want to say.
Freddy's supernatural. Yeah, I like that. I always joke like that. Like, Jason and Michael are real. Freddy's fake. Or Freddy's like I'm not into paranormal movies, so I consider him more like, what is he comes to introduce. But I like the first one. But like the Boiler Room from the first one, which is just a crazy place. My friend Paul, who does a website about it, he's been inside there, and I think it's an old water treatment plant in Los Angeles, right downtown, and it's all boarded up. But it looks like he went inside, and like he snuck inside and took all these amazing pictures on his website.
Wow.
And he was like, "I'll fly out there with you and get you in." I'm like, dude, I've driven by that place. Like, there's security all over the place. Like, I'm like, why is there? First of all, why is there security out there? Like, why do they care? It's just because it's this giant condemned building. So something like that is something I would like to do, but I'm not gonna hop a fence with, you know. And or he would talk about going around the back and sneaking in through this wood in there. I'm like, yeah. But there's some movies probably I've looked up. The problem is I watch movies now. It's been for a while. Within 30 seconds, wherever the movie starts, I'm like, where's that? And 4 hours to watch an hour and a half movie because I'm looking up even if I don't like the movie. And there's a couple of like houses that I can't get to, like from like some like Jack Nicholson movies, like Diane Keaton and Jack Nicholson. They did a lot of Something's Got to Give. Like I like those movies. And you know, other trying to think of other big movies like to do, like well, something like that. You can't get to the houses, you can only see the gates type of thing. And then so that's very, I'm just like, well, I can't really do that. And then I did, when I was probably 23, 24, I did a whole Woody Allen tour that I put together myself with my friend who's a huge Woody Allen fan. This is back in the day, we go to New York City because it's an 8-hour drive, we'd go. And we went to every movie location. We have pictures of us, you know, in the same spots as Woody Allen, Diane Keaton, and, you know, Mia Farrow. I'd love to go back and do those, but you can't. It's a hard sell. You know, I'm a fan of the movies, but not.
Yeah.
You know, you can't really do that now. So
yeah,
that's something that kind of sucks. So if I see those locations, I can't, you know, I'll put them on my Instagram maybe, but YouTube.
Have there been a lot of locations? There's not a lot in South Carolina, I don't think, right? The Halloween new ones.
Charleston, Halloween. What else? Okay, so what have I done in South Carolina movies? I did Charleston, Halloween 2018.
I think that movie, The Strangers.
Yes, that was.
I think that house is not far from here.
I never did that. Some people have done that, and they said they have had problems with the owner. Let me see. There's something I'm sure I've done. Let me see. There's something that I did in. I know there's something else in South Carolina. Let me see. Carolina.
Because I enjoy going to those locations as well. I don't film them or anything like you do, but and I remember looking up South Carolina filming locations, and I didn't really find much.
Yeah, it seems to be quite a lot. It looks like what I can tell here, like Die Hard with a Vengeance, Days of Thunder, Forrest Gump. That's going to be one shot.
Yeah,
one scene. That's not the whole movie. It's definitely Forrest Gump and Die Hard with a Vengeance. Now, The Notebook. That was all South Carolina, right?
Oh yeah.
The other one I want to do is, I will do it maybe this year, is Sleeping with the Enemy, Julia Roberts. That's South Carolina. The only problem with that movie is the house. I don't know if you remember the movie. The house that she lives in with her abusive husband at the beginning, which sets off the whole movie, was just a facade built beside the ocean. So that's just, you know, it's kind of like that really cool looking house.
Yeah,
there's a cool looking mound of sand. You know? But the small town where everything else happens is still there. So yeah, but I love South Carolina. I have a lot of great memories as a kid going there.
Yeah. Now another thing I noticed on your channel, maybe you've been doing it for a while, but you've recently had a lot of rock star type things on there. You've done something with Ricky Rocket, the ghost hunting. You had Vince Neil stuff on there.
Yeah.
Is that something that you look at as well as music situations? And
yeah, I mean, that's why I was excited. I'm really excited to do your podcast because it's the rock and roll, you know, and because music is my first love. Like even above movies and wanting to be an actor. I mean, every kid wants to be a rock star, wants to be a musician, right? No matter what. Yeah,
that's what I wanted to be.
Yeah, right. You want it. So music is definitely my first love, and I love all genres. So, and when I was talking to Ricky in the video, I was telling him about, being a little kid and my dad buying the Police album for me. And that's like uh I love anything. You could tell me any genre of music. I'll be like, oh wow, like that was here or that here. A lot of times there's famous pictures of a band here or famous pictures of a, and I'll go to them and I'll take photos. But sometimes I'm like, there's not the famous picture of Bruce Springsteen on Sunset Boulevard with his own billboard in the background. I went and lined that up just the other day when I was there, but I was thinking to myself, well, not really much of a video I can make. Like, yeah, Bruce Springsteen stood here, like, you know what I mean? Like the video's over 30 seconds. So those are difficult. But when there's anything to do with music that I can make a video about, I will.
Yeah, the whiskey was cool. You went there.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was, oh my gosh. I mean, that's something I love going to famous bars and clubs when they're closed, like when they're open, just for me to film around when it's quiet. And I love going to music studios. Like I've been to, I think I filmed inside maybe two, but the best one I did, my favorite one was Robert Lang Studios in Seattle, where Nirvana did record one song, but more importantly, Dave Grohl recorded the entire Foo Fighters album.
Okay.
The first Foo Fighters album. So that, it was always this, I'd heard of this studio that was built on a hill in Seattle, and it's made of rock. And I was like, one day I want to go there. Like, that'd be so cool to see. And then to be welcomed with open arms by the owner, Robert Lang himself, and show me around and say, Kurt stood right here, and Dave was here, the drum setup was here. Like, it's just like, what is going on?
Yeah. You didn't get to the rainbow though, right?
No, the rainbow is one that I have probably about 20 minutes of footage inside the rainbow I shot. It's too loud. It's crazy in there. Have you been to the rainbow?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy in there. It's loud. People that work there are very nice, showing me, different stuff. Like, hey, over here. And it's like, so I was just talking to the friend that got me the whiskey, and I said, look, he said, you got to do rainbow. And I said, yeah. I said, but copyright music playing in the background, plus it's so loud. I said, I want to go there in the morning before they open. He said, I'll get on that. I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
That would just be incredible. I was at Sound City Studios, when in LA a couple of years ago, and they did a big documentary about it, Sound City, with everybody in it. But I still went and did my own little thing on it, and there was and it closed, but it had just closed. So there was this giant, not giant, there was a couch outside on the sidewalk right by their front door. And one of the guys was walking out, and I said, hey man, is this couch from Sound City? He was like, yeah. I said, whereabouts in the building was it? He goes, it was in one of the artist rooms. So that's like the green room where they set up and like chill. And he goes, where'd you have? Just throwing it out. And I was like, if I lived in LA, that would be strapped to the top of my car.
They were just throwing it out?
They were just throwing it out.
Oh.
I was like, how can I fly this back to Canada?
How can I get this through?
Like, I'll show you something cool. Hold on.
Yeah.
I've got lots of like different parts of stuff. Like I've got stuff of Eminem. I've got the front step of Eminem's Marshall Mathers LP, where he's sitting on the front steps of his house.
You have a step?
Yeah, it burned down in 2013. So I went to the property afterwards because my friends wouldn't go with me the year before when it was still standing because they were too scared. And I was like,
scared of what?
8 Mile. It's
yeah.
And now I go there all the time. But when I went there in I think it was 2014, the steps were still there. The house had went down, and so it was in thing. So I just picked up the step where he's sitting on, and I dropped it on the sidewalk. It snapped right into 2 pieces because it was like so old and crumbly. And I took it, and I have it.
That's awesome.
This is from Kurt Cobain's bathroom.
What is that? Tile?
Yeah, it's tile.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's something like if I could have the Sound City couch here, I would have it. But
yeah.
In the meantime, I take whatever I can. I never take, I'm not going to take something that I can't take.
Right.
When you go somewhere, you leave it as it is. And I believe in that. but this house was going to be remodeled. It's the LA house up on Alta Vista or Alta Loma in the
Hmm.
Hollywood Hills. So I
That's
was like,
awesome.
yeah, there's so stuff like that. I love it. Love it. I love music history. I've got some movie stuff, but it's more the music stuff I love.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. So in 2023, you're going to hit a lot more locations, I'm assuming. And do you
Mhm.
already have those planned out, or do you just do them as you go as the year goes?
Just as well, this is the first time that I've picked the worst time to stay home in Toronto because it's now winter. Like we're in the middle of there's a snowstorm outside right now, and I'm gonna be here till at least mid-February. I said no matter what, I gotta save up and relax and edit and start instead of going back on the road with all these videos I said and put up. So I've got Southwest plans I started thinking about. I've got a couple of YouTubers that want to meet and collab in Florida. Then I got another group that wants to meet up in LA in there. So I've got a few things in my head. I'm like, okay, how can I do this, this, and this? The good thing is because daylight savings time ends this November, coming up 2023, I always have that pressure. Once the end of October hits, I don't want to. I don't want to travel because the sun goes down at 5 o'clock.
Yeah,
In
totally.
California, where I just was, they get it's like somebody switched the light off.
Yeah.
But now I don't feel the pressure to get everything done from April to October. You know what I mean? Now I'm like, well, if I don't get there in February, March, I've got November, I've got December, thankfully, because I need that extra 2 hours of daylight. Because when I wake up, after I get ready, I'll film all day, and I don't want to go back at 5 o'clock to a hotel or wherever and be done. I want that extra 2 hours or 3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've
Well,
got a
that's
lot.
awesome.
Yeah, I've got a lot planned. I've got a lot planned. It's just a matter of right now. I got to put up all this stuff. Like it seems like you watch my channel, so thank you.
Mhm. Yeah.
You're gonna watch and you're gonna be like, wow, he went here, he did this, because I have so many big topics that I just haven't had time to work on.
Hmm.
If something comes up, I want to go back here, film, and then I start putting up all these videos from other places. So now I'm gonna relax and put up all videos from Mississippi, Chicago, Seattle, Olympia. Like I got great Kurt Cobain, I got another Eminem, big one
Hmm.
coming, and lots of true crime from all over the country. And then just yeah, then a couple people want me to film in Toronto, and I'm like, Toronto?
Wasn't the movie Rad? You remember that movie Rad?
That's Alberta.
Did you ever
Yeah.
go there? You ever
No,
do that?
that's Alberta. That's like imagine going from. I mean, Alberta is beautiful, but it's freezing cold. It's way colder than
Hmm.
that is Canada. Like where I live is southern Canada, Toronto. So it's cool, but not like there.
Yeah.
And that's something I would do in the spring or summer. But when I was in Alberta, I did Brokeback Mountain. I did Superman, and like I said, First Blood, and Friday 13 part, Jason versus Freddy, and I did another horror movie. I can't. Oh, It 1990. So there's lots out
Okay.
west. Yeah. Rad. A lot of people ask me about that. That's a very
It's
popular
a
movie.
great movie.
Yeah,
I guess that'd be like a cult classic, I guess, right? Is that what you call
yeah,
them?
yeah.
Yeah.
There's stuff like that, and Sandlot. People ask me to do that movie. There's lots of strange little movies. I want to do one day. There's not too many locations, and I don't know how many people would be into it, but I don't like I want them to be. I want them to be excited. Is pump up the volume. Christian
Mm.
Slater, that movie.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
love that movie. To this day, I still love that movie. So there's always I think of a movie. There's ones that I've done like Raising Arizona, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and once I filmed them, I'm like, I did Back to the Future, and all three of those I've never put up, and I don't think I ever will.
Really? Just didn't come out like you wanted
Just did come on, just wasn't as excited. Raising Arizona, I was just like, the locations are cool. And I'd watched the movie the night before because I hadn't seen it in a long time. I was just like, didn't have the energy right. I just landed in Arizona. The two guys, the guy and his son, his young son, was so excited to film. So I promised him I'll get back there and film something else with them. I said, just it's not working. And then Bill and Ted, I just felt like, but I did get footage of the Bill and Ted convenience store, which is now torn down. But Bill and Ted for some reason.
You ever think to re-record those? Go back, try and do it again, or no? Not worth it.
Yeah, I do sometimes. Back to the Future is not one that I would ever go back and redo, unless I could do it. They're all over the place, those locations in LA. So if I could do it in one day, I'd maybe do Back to the Future. But I don't know. I mean, uh, I know for a fact, like some of my friends that are YouTubers that have done Back to the Future, one of them has huge views, one of them has low views. I'm just like, it's not one of my favorite movies. I did Teen Wolf because to be honest, when they came out, and I did a video all about Michael J. Fox himself in Vancouver. I'm a big Michael J. Fox fan. I was a bigger fan of Teen Wolf than Back to the Future.
Were you?
That was, yeah. When those two movies came out, Teen Wolf was everything. I thought that was the greatest movie. I'm bad. People, yeah, this is cool. Let's watch Teen Wolf again.
Yeah.
So when I was there, I worked on Teen Wolf and put it up.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome, man. Well, you got a great channel. People can check it out on YouTube. Just search Scott on Tape. It'll come up. And you're also on social media, right?
Yeah, Instagram, Scott on Tape. There's a Facebook group, Scott on Tape. And yeah, YouTube, Scott on Tape is either 3 words or 1 word. Whatever way you type it in, you'll find me.
Awesome. Awesome. Man, I appreciate it. I know we've been trying to set this up for a little bit. I'm glad we finally did it.
Yeah, I'm glad too. I'm sorry about that. But I mean, it's one of first of all, because we were communicating through Twitter. Twitter is what I use for hockey scores. Like when I'm away, like I'm checking constantly to see if there's anything about the Leafs, whatever's going on. So I always forget that there's the message part of it because I always forget about that. And then I never want to schedule with you when I'm on the road because if I'm late, I'd be mortified. You know what I mean? Like on the road, it's hard. Like here in Toronto, I'm like, you're around. Set this up. So I'm like, yep, I'll be there on this whatever day today's 17th.
Yeah,
today's not 17th. No.
Today's the 15th. 15th. You're close.
15th. Yeah. So yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate you waiting around. It was fun.
Yeah, it was. It was great. All right, buddy. Well, Scott, stick around. All right. And again, thank you.
Thanks a lot.